I'll make sure that, although I think she just registered. Let me just talk to her.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name is John Nori and I will be your moderator for today. Our topic today is engaging schools, embedding social and emotional learning in high school classrooms. And our presenters, who will be with you in just a moment, are Larry Derringer and Donna Melee from Engaging Schools. Before we start our actual program, I have a few technical problems or technical details to go over with you. Zoom offers support at 1-888-799-9666 extension 2, and you jot down that webinar ID number 967-411-164, please, because you'll need that number if you call for support during the presentation. Before I go on, I'd like to just invite you to ask questions. We are looking for participation through this webinar, but we will hold the questions until we get to the Q&A section at the end of the presentation. This is being recorded. It'll be on the NASSP website tomorrow. You can get the slides there as well as the recording of the webinar. So those of you who are online and hoping to get your hands on these slides, they'll be available to you along with any links and other information that our presenters will go over. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our presenters today and ask them to begin our webinar.
As John said, I'm Larry Derringer, Executive Director of Engaging Schools and a former high school teacher. Thank you for joining us today. We offer the quote that you see on the screen as a way of setting the stage for today's session. Next slide, please. Engaging Schools is an educational nonprofit that has been working with schools across the country for over 35 years. We partner with states, districts, and schools, specialize in collaborating with middle and high schools, and have supported hundreds of high schools to integrate academic, social, and emotional learning and development. And John, you could enter the next 3 parts of the slide. We provide professional learning, leadership coaching, and how-to educational resources in each of these 3 core service areas that you see on the slide. Next slide, please. I'm joined today by Donna Melee, an engaged classroom specialist who has worked with Engaging Schools for 10 years after a long career as a New York City high school teacher. As interest in SEL among states, districts, and schools grows nationally, we know there is not sufficient clarity and far less research on how to implement SEL in high school settings. We recognize that educators have a lot of questions about how to address SEL at the high school level so that it feels integral and authentic and supports each and every student rather than as an add-on that reaches some students some of the time. We hope that you will walk away from today's webinar with the results that are shown on the slide. Toward the end of the webinar, we'll direct you how you can download a free white paper on embedding social and emotional learning in high school classrooms that goes into a lot more detail than we'll be able to go into today on the webinar. Next slide, please. We hold a fundamental belief that systematically embedding SEL into the daily experience of classrooms is the foundation for growing young people who are happier, healthier, and academically engaged, for reducing behavior problems, and for maximizing our students' success in school, work, and life. It's also the best vehicle to reach each and every student. We also know that there are different ways to build on this foundation and support higher levels of and/or more specific social and emotional needs. John, you can fly in the next 2 parts of this slide. Embedding SEL in classrooms supports equity in multiple ways. It helps create the conditions in which optimal learning can take place. SEL engages teachers in practices that support developmentally appropriate and culturally responsive teaching. SEL promotes equity by supporting students to develop skills and mindsets that will increase their success with real-time school experiences, careers, and life. Thus, embedding SEL is especially beneficial to those students who are underserved and left behind by the mainstream educational system. Next slide, please. Our belief in the need to integrate SEL into daily instruction, our experience in the field and our knowledge about the priorities of high school educators led us to lean into the work of colleagues in the field, including CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, and its work identifying and describing core SEL competencies. Mandy Savitz-Romer, David Conley, and organizations like ACT and AIR, whose work has affirmed the essential role that metacognitive skills, habits, mindsets, and attitudes play in college and career readiness, access, and success. The Chicago Consortium on School Research and its work to study non-cognitive student success factors and the critical nature of academic efficacy and behaviors. Next slide, please. Our study led us to recognize broad overlap in SEL competencies across these fields, as well as significant differences in competencies. This recognition led us to develop a synthesis of competencies that seems especially suited to high schools. We created a framework that integrates SEL, academic learning, and college and career readiness competencies. We called this synthesis Learning and Life Competencies for High School, College, and Career Success, referred to hereafter as Learning and Life Competencies, or LLCs. These competencies and associated target behaviors are informed by and responsive to the developmental and cultural needs of secondary students and the academic expectations held by high school teachers. Next slide, please. Our framework illustrates the relationships among mindsets, skill sets, learning and life competencies, and desired target behaviors and understandings. So the next animation, thank you. Mindsets are the deeply held beliefs and assumptions that drive behavior and create powerful incentives to sustain prior habits. Examples of mindsets are school and schoolwork have value for me, or my ability and competence grow with my effort. Next animation, please. While some students may enter classrooms with positive mindsets that need to be strengthened, others may need these first fostered through learning and developing key skill sets. We've identified 4 such skill sets that you can see on the screen. And the next 2 pieces of animation. Thank you. Each skill set includes associated competencies and specific target behaviors that demonstrate students' growing mastery of these over time. Note the circular relationship shown in the diagram. Development in one area may lead to strengthening in another. Donna will further illustrate the relationships among skill sets, competencies, and desired target behaviors. Next slide, please.
Next, please. In this slide, you'll see the overarching skill set of self-awareness. Next, please. And how it's broken down into the first of 2 key competencies. I know myself. Next. Along with these 4 desired target behaviors, which are named using I statements with key vocabulary to support student ownership and to make them relatively easy to categorize and remember. Next slide, please. Next, please. And next, please. Under the same skill set of self-awareness, we offer a second key competency. I'm aware of skills, behaviors, and attitudes that help me. Next, please. This key competency is aligned with 3 desired target behaviors. We believe that the user-friendly language of the target behaviors supports students and teachers in identifying, monitoring, and mastering specific target behaviors that are strongly associated with good grades in high school, post-secondary degree completion, and career success. These 2 slides represent the key skill set of self-awareness. The link to the white paper will include all 4 skill sets, competencies, and target behaviors. Next, please. Classroom SEL instruction fits into a multi-tiered system of support that's critical to support each and every student's success. This three-tiered system is represented here by this upside-down triangle. At tier 1, when teachers hold a collective responsibility for implementing universal practices and strategies to support positive behavior and academic success for all students, the number of students who need tier 2 interventions can be reduced. And when students do experience behavioral or academic challenges, SEL instruction and support continues to be embedded in tier 2 teacher-facilitated interventions, whether that's diffusing students who are emotionally charged, engaging in a one-to-one problem-solving and planning conference, or conducting progress monitoring. Next slide, please. At tiers 1 and 2, we have identified a set of 5 classroom learning domains that increase academic engagement and achievement and support students in strengthening key LLCs. We define domain to be an area of pedagogical knowledge with ample evidence about its importance in classrooms. These domains include research-based tier 1 strategies and tier 2 interventions that support each student's success. Next slide, please. So, what might this embedded instruction look like in a classroom? Next, please. Within this domain of positive personal relationships, it starts even before the student enters the classroom. Next. And the teacher standing at the door, meeting and greeting by using students' names and making personalized comments and conducting check-ins. Next, please, the remaining animation. Can you bring it all in, John? Thanks. By implementing these key strategies, the teacher's modeling social efficacy and providing ongoing opportunities for students to practice target behaviors that support them in strengthening this key LLC, while also fostering students' emotional readiness to step into the lesson successfully. Next slide, please. Next and next. Thank you. Within the domain of restorative and accountable discipline and behavior support, when the teacher notices a student getting off track and engaging in a low-impact unwanted behavior, she practices depersonalization and offers a reflective question to support self-correction. Bring in the rest of the animation, please. By implementing these key strategies, the teacher offers the student a valuable opportunity to strengthen self-awareness that can be leveraged moving forward in a variety of contexts. So these 2 slides are just 2 examples of what embedding SEL into daily classroom instruction might look like. The white paper includes several others. Next slide, please. Underlying all the classroom domains and at the heart of integrating SEL instruction into daily classroom practice is a developmentally informed and culturally responsive approach we call Model, Teach, Practice, and Assess, or MTPA. When teachers put aside assumptions about the competencies secondary students should already have, and instead model and teach these, every adolescent has the opportunity to either develop or strengthen the understandings and mental models that help them meet these target behaviors. So this might look like asking students to identify what a specific competency looks like and sounds like, or asking volunteer students to demonstrate a competency for their peers. Ongoing practice is essential for students to demonstrate competence with specific LLCs, and when teachers provide real-time feedback and opportunities for self-assessment, students learn to self-correct and monitor their progress. This might look like the teacher collecting and sharing examples of what she saw and heard that demonstrate use of a particular competency, or asking students to reflect orally or in writing on their use of a target behavior. Next slide, please. So we recognize that integration of SEL into high school classrooms can present challenges. We also recognize that it presents a powerful opportunity and a viable strategy for supporting each and every student to strengthen skills that are critical for success in school, work, and life. As a result, school leaders committed to the integration of SEL must be prepared to be cheerleaders for the work and ready to support healthy, skeptic teachers in understanding the benefits of embedding SEL into their courses. Next slide, please. Here we offer one wondering that a healthy, skeptic teacher might hold, and one that we've heard often in our work in the field. How do teachers add SEL to what they're already doing when they're charged with helping students master academic content? Next slide, please. We suggest one way of supporting this teacher is by listening responsively to their underlying interest. In this case, their students' academic success. Once we've demonstrated that we've heard the teacher's concerns in this way, we might then offer to support them in making the link between the development of LLCs and improved academic achievement in their course. Next slide, please. We suggest that belief building is critical to strengthening teacher commitment to this work. We also recognize this takes time and intentionality on school leaders' parts. Next, please. One way you might consider doing this is by asking teachers to reflect on the important impact of LLCs on their own lives. Next, please. Or deepen teachers' understanding of adolescent learners in order to help them better understand what's normal developmentally and depersonalize when students get off track with practicing LLCs. Next, please. Or, as the previous slide indicated, you might consider asking teachers to identify specific target behaviors that would help students be successful in their course so they better understand the connection between SEL and academic achievement. Next slide, please. As we know from our experience in the field, as well as from what the literature tells us, students benefit when teachers work collaboratively to provide consistent, ongoing support across classrooms. It's this strategic redundancy of opportunity across classes that allows teachers to hone key LLCs. As a result, we recommend teachers work with teachers to identify key LLCs to integrate into their daily instruction. Work with colleagues to do that. Can you slide in the next 3, please, John? So think about the embedded opportunities that already exist within your school for this type of collaboration. It might mean small course-alike cohorts or departments or grade teams, prioritizing key LLCs that students need to be successful in their particular classes. Next, please. Some leaders might even decide to target specific LLCs for instruction school-wide that line up with school-wide expectations or core values. Collaboration around SEL instruction will depend upon your specific school context. Next slide, please. Here you see a link to our white paper, which contains the full set of learning and life competencies and elaborates on the rationale, framework, and strategies for embedding SEL into daily classroom instruction. The link will be available beginning tomorrow. We suggest coming back to the webinar at your earliest convenience to access the link and download the paper. Another initial next step we recommend would be convening a group of leaders in your building to read and discuss the paper and identify next steps that might make best sense given your school's context. Next slide, please. So we thank you for participating in today's webinar. We appreciate your commitment to learning more about integrating SEL instruction into daily classroom instruction. I'm not sure whether there will be time for questions and answers. It will probably be limited. So if you would like to find out more about our organization, please visit our website or give us a call at the number on the slide.
Thank you, Donna. This slide is out of place, and I should have talked about it at the beginning. But we do have folks who follow us on Twitter and tweet about the webinars, and so that's the handle that you might use if you were tweeting about this, or if you're looking for comments on from other webinars. I have a couple of questions that have come in from the audience, Donna, and I think this one is intended for you. The person wrote, "I'm curious why you use the term embedded as opposed to integrated, or do you think they really mean the same thing?"
I would say they mean the same thing. Yeah, I think of them as synonymous terms.
I would offer one different way that we use them sometimes. We use the word integrate a lot. We talk about integrating academic, social, and emotional learning and development. And that suggests a certain, combination and synthesis and integration of these things. By embedding, there's a slightly different connotation, which is really making part of the fabric of classroom life, of daily rituals and routines and daily practice. So they're nuanced. You can certainly use them synonymously very easily, but we sometimes have slightly different connotations for each of them.
The next person asks me to go back to this slide for the white paper link. I guess that's not the slide, it's the previous one.
It's on both of them.
Okay, so there's the white paper link for the person who's asking for that. And another question from the audience, would you also provide a transcript of the webinar? We don't provide a written transcript of the webinar, but as I said, you can get the slides and the recording at www.nassp.org/webinar. It'll be available tomorrow about this time. And someone's saying, you're saying a lot that's not on the slides, and that's why she's looking for that. So again, the recording should be helpful there. Another question just came in. Is it possible to have a list of the LLCs? And also, is there any way to have access to key strategies, MTPA, to help teachers teach the LLCs in their classrooms? Also, and this is a multi-part and I'll repeat it. Also, would it be easier to teach as part of an academic lesson or as mini lessons and videos? So let me read that again. Is it possible to have a list of the LLCs? And is there a way to have access to key strategies to help teachers teach the LLCs in their classrooms?
So the LLCs are listed, they're on pages 15 and 16 in the white paper that the free white paper that you can access. So you see them laid out there. You'll also, in the white paper, we offer a vignette that's meant to illustrate what embedding looks like. In terms of specific strategies, we do have a book coming out next summer on engaged classrooms, and the heart of this book is about integrating academic, social, and emotional learning, and that will really dig into practices and strategies and ways in which teachers can use these in the classroom. The white paper offers some illustrations, but it is not a guide to implementing.
There is one page in the white paper, I don't have it in front of me, I think it might be page 24, that has a list of MTPA strategies. Again, yeah, it's not comprehensive, but it is a list.
Well, the second part of this question was, would it be easier to teach as part of an academic lesson or as mini lessons and videos?
Donna, do you want to?
So yeah, so I mean, so Larry's talking about embedding, and he talked about the nuance of that word. We would suggest embedding it into an academic lesson. So, and that could be a mini lesson. So I have a wondering around the difference between those two. But so I'm thinking about the turn and talk, which a lot of teachers use, or think, pair, share. And I'm going to use it in my social studies or my math class. And in the context of using it in my social studies or math class, I'm going to do, when introducing it, a little mini lesson on what the turn and talk looks like and sounds like, right? And then students will practice the turn and talk. And when I'm first introducing it, I may not have them talk specifically about math, because I want them to get good at just talking. And then I might bring in talking about content the next time they try it. So that would be in the context of a lesson. It would be a mini lesson on the skill itself that's embedded in a protocol that I'm using in my academic lesson. Larry, what might you add?
I would, another example is if you use small groups of any sort, cooperative groups or other small groups, you might focus on the competency, one of the competencies, I cooperate and participate, and really unpack the desired target behaviors and understanding. So they range from, I work cooperatively with others and do my fair share of the work. I actively participate, share, and work for high performance. I put the goals of the group ahead of my own needs and don't let others distract me. I work effectively with different students. And so those can become, they can be taught. They can be part of an assessment and reflection after the activity. And again, it illustrates the key principle here of using, of developing competencies and desired target behaviors in the context of an authentic learning experience, rather than completely separate and on their own at some point during the day.
The next question really speaks to that as well, and you've partially answered it, but let me read the question that Tricia has sent us. Do you actually tell students that they're embedding SEL, that you are embedding SEL into your daily classroom practice, spending time defining SEL skill sets you're teaching, etc.? Or do you embed, say, social efficacy activities that lead to social efficacy without saying social efficacy as a goal?
First of all, we intentionally, and a lot of the high schools that we work with resonate with the use of the term learning and life competencies. And in many classrooms, teachers will explain how these are a part of our class, explain the rationale and importance of these in terms of success in the class, and in terms of larger success in schoolwork and life beyond the classroom, and then be very explicit about them as they're being modeled, taught, practiced, and assessed.
Thank you. Is there any research on the SEL incorporation into high school curriculum supporting college and career outcomes?
That's a good question. There's some research on the CASTLE website, Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning at the high school level. I would also look at the work of David Conley's center and the research they've done. They're on one of the slides. I don't have the slide in front of me, but you could find the David Conley and the name of his center and go there and look what they've got. And I know that both AIR and ACT have done work in this arena. So you could go to their website. Both of these are big organizations, so I can't steer you to the right place to track down research that they would have. But those are places I would go.
Thank you. The last question that I have is really echoes the previous one, but let me read it as it was written. David wrote, I run a technology think tank focused on workforce issues. I was a teacher and administrator for the past 20 years. Soft skills is a tremendously important issue to HR departments. Do you have metrics to prove that the lessons have been successful? In other words, how do you quantify SEL and know that you have successfully taught it?
Well, this is a frontier area in SEL, frankly. There are a lot of folks working on assessments to do just what's being asked, and they're for the most part are at an early stage. A lot of the work that's been done historically has relied on self-reports by students and by teachers. And, I think we know the limitations of that. There are more sophisticated assessment tools and protocols being developed. And Again, I'm not sure what to say beyond that. Castle, who we've referred to a couple of times, has a working group on assessment that is doing thinking and testing and work in this arena, whose members are.
Thank you. There are a couple more questions that I'm not going to be able to get to them completely, but this, in the 30 seconds that I have left, people are asking, would you recommend model schools embedding SEL in the daily classroom practices? I'm going to ask that person, and Mara suggested a website that is way too long for me to read to you at this point. If you would please communicate directly to our presenters, I would appreciate that, because we are out of time. Thank you both for a very enlightening presentation today. It's been fascinating, and the questions that have come in, thank you all for the participation. I'd like to just take a moment to invite everyone to the NASSP 2019 National Principals Conference. It's sponsored by NASSP, as I said, July 18th through 20th in Boston, Massachusetts. You can learn more about the conference and register at the address shown on the slide in front of you now. And I would like to thank everybody for participating today, and have a good afternoon.